Tranan is a one-of-a-kind roller coaster at Skara Sommarland. This was the prototype SNS Freefly, and the only one ever built. If you're unfamiliar with this coaster, this ride is special in that the vehicles can rotate over each other at specific points during the ride. It feels like a wing coaster crossed with a suspended coaster. It also feels like the predecessor to SNS's brand new Access coaster. So is Tranan a gimmick, or is it a genuinely fun ride? Find out in this review of Tranan. Throughout the 2000s, SNS Worldwide debuted a lot of unique coaster models. Examples include the Screaming Squirrel model with the saxophone inversions, and the El Loco model with beyond vertical drops, but the craziest of the bunch may have been the Freefly. This model debuted in 2009 as the spiritual successor to the suspended coaster. Riders would board wing-style trains. Then at select points in the layout, the track would invert. However, the riders would not. The vehicle would rotate 180 degrees while keeping riders upright, so guests would go from the right to left side of the train, and vice versa. The first Freefly would be Tranan at Skara Sommarland. This was an impact ride they sorely needed for their amusement side. This Swedish amusement park had become more well known for its water park, and it had been over 2 decades since they last added a roller coaster. While the ride is a modest 65.5 foot or 20 meter tall height, it's absolute eye candy. The sky blue track looks nice, especially as you look out over the coaster over the lagoon. Then seeing the trains rotate over the track is mesmerizing to watch. Then those trains are a work of art. Each one is a goofy and colorful bird with bloodshot eyes and flight gear. This makes sense because Tranan translates to the type of bird known as the crane in English. This station is very bare bones in terms of visuals, but it is surprisingly big both in terms of height and width. This is to accommodate the large wingspan of the trains and the height of the pathways going over the track. The queue line begins with a set of stairs taking you above the load platform. You can then choose a separate queue line for the right or left side of the train. The two sides at fairly similar weights most times I rode Tranan. If you get an opportunity, definitely try both sides. The right side is pulled over the track when the vehicles rotate, while the left side goes under the track. It's a different visual, and the forces also vary a bit by side. As for seat selection, I didn't have too much of a preference if I was in the front or back. The sensations felt identical. The only difference is whether you want the front row view, but that isn't even perfectly clear because you have the rotational axle and the bird's wing resting in front of you. Now these trains are bizarre. I already talked about the theme, but I want to talk about their setup. They are unlike any other train out there. As noted earlier, you have wing-style trains with riders on each side of the bird. Each side is its own swinging toboggan where guests are seated in line similar to a log flume. These toboggans are shockingly low. This is the most underrated element to this ride. The vehicle's chassis stop at the ankles of most riders. Then there's a thin metal bar on the side below the knee of most riders. Then guests are restrained by just a seatbelt over their lap. That is it. With this setup, you have absolutely no lateral bracing, which becomes wild when you realize how strong the ride's laterals are. This was one of the hardest coasters for me to keep my hands raised for the duration of the experience. Some of those turns are crazy. If you want to brace yourself, you do have this metal loop in front of you to hold on to. Each toboggan holds just 4 riders, so the trains hold a maximum of 8 riders each. The day I visited, only 2 cars were on the course, so this ride does not have the best capacity. The ride does have a continuously moving load platform at least to expedite boarding, and fortunately, most guests were over at the water park the day I was there, so the line was never more than 10 minutes for me even on a summer day. If you do visit on a busier day, the park offers single-shot skip-the-line passes. Called jet passes, these cost 100 Swedish krona or $9 US a piece. You book a 10-minute window online and essentially head right up the exit, boarding the next vehicle. The Freefly model won the Best New Product award at the 2009 IAAPA trade show. However, Tranan is still the only one that was ever built. Why is this the case? SNS themselves have cited the ride's low throughput as the primary culprit, and I can see why that would be a major issue for a larger park. So SNS worked to improve the capacity, and as a result, they iterated on the model. In 2012, SNS unveiled a revamped Freefly. This one had longer, higher capacity trains. Not only that, but the rider carriages could rock a full 360 degrees. This made the experience more extreme. No one ever bought this designed version, but does it sound familiar to another new concept SNS has been pushing in recent years? Because it should. The motion of the Freefly inspired their Axis coaster. The biggest difference is that the wing-style seating was removed. Instead, the single cars rotate around the track while also rocking. I really hope this concept takes off. Tranan was a lot of fun, but having that rotation on a more extreme ride looks incredible. Once dispatched, you turn out of the station. At this point, you're riding above the track. You then ascend the chain lift. It's fairly quick, and if you're on the right side, you get a nice view of the park towards the top. Once you crest the top, you have a 270-degree downward spiral. This starts to introduce you to the ride's movement. You will feel your toboggan start to swing outwards. It's not too wild, but you'll get some okay force here, more so on the left side of the train because you're on the outside of the turn. You then have a left turn. The train is sort of jerked into it. It's not uncomfortable, but it feels like a sudden hitch. Next comes a tight 180-degree turn. This gives you your first taste of laterals. They're decent in strength, but they're quite unnerving given the low sides of the train. You then have a 180-degree turn right. During this turn, the track rotates 180 degrees. This causes the vehicle to rotate counterclockwise. It's a really cool visual rotating around the track. At the end of the element, the train is beneath the track, and those on the right will now be on the left, and vice versa. The rotation feels whippier on the right side. They are pulled over the track and also on the outer edge of the turn. But you get better laterals on the left side. Whereas the right side is rotating into the direction of the laterals, the left side is rotating away from them. So the toboggan feels like it's trying to counteract the rotation, causing your body to be pushed inwards. It's a really weird sensation. You then narrowly avoid some supports overhead and cruise into a mid-course brake run. But don't worry, you will not slow down one bit. You then have another flip turn. This one turns left while rotating the vehicle clockwise. The element doesn't yank you through it like the prior turn, but it does offer even better laterals. They are particularly great if you're on the left side of the train. Since you are again rotating in the opposite direction of the turn, your body is pulled outwards. You still get laterals on the right side, but they're noticeably weaker. The turn is whippier on the right side though because you're going with the turn. You then have a shallow slope downwards followed by a sharp turn left. This is the most intense element on the ride by far. The train is absolutely thrusted around the bend. While the toboggan will noticeably swing, the laterals are what stands out. They are downright insane. Your body is abruptly yanked sideways, and the tight turn also produces some nice positive Gs. The swinging and Gs are better on the right side because you're on the outer edge of the turn, but the laterals are extreme no matter which side you're on. This turn puts the left side below the track slightly, so when you level off into the final brake run, this side needs to jump upwards, giving an itty-bitty pop of airtime. You don't get that on the right side as you lower down into the brakes. You then slam to a stop, but your toboggan will continue to swing side to side. It's similar to what happens on aero-suspended coasters where the cars just keep on rocking at the end. After a few seconds, the brakes release. You then have another hard stop a few moments later on the brakes. Then you release and slowly turn into the station, ending the 1,640 foot or 500 meter long coaster. This ride does feel short, but that's not too surprising for a prototype. As a whole, this coaster is smooth. Some of the transitions into the turns can sort of jerk the vehicle, but this doesn't cause any discomfort for me. The one thing I would watch out for is if you have a history of back issues. As I noted earlier, the seats and restraints offer zero lateral bracing despite the lateral forces this ride produces, so your upper body is really chucked around. I was worried this rotation would feel like a gimmick, but it feels like its own unique element. The flip turns don't just change your orientation, they also offer weird sensations combining whip, swinging, and laterals all into one feature. In terms of pacing, this is a coaster that builds up as it goes. The first few turns are a tad mild, but the final 3 turns are great and they really ramp up the intensity. So, what would I rate Tranan? I would give this unique coaster a 7 out of 10. This is an attraction that grew on me with re-rides. It's unlike any other coaster out there. It has some bizarre forces, namely on the final 3 turns. The laterals get progressively stronger as the ride progresses, and because of the train design, they are surprisingly wild. I cannot believe how exposed you are. I was cackling with delight since I could not predict the sensations it would produce in my first rides. The layout does have a slow start, and it is on the shorter side, but it's truly a one-of-a-kind experience you cannot get elsewhere. I know Skara Sommarland is not a hotspot for coaster enthusiasts, but if you're on a coaster road trip through Sweden, I think it's worth stopping at this park. You can easily tack this park on if you're traveling between Grona Lund and Liseberg. It's in the middle of these parks, whether you're driving or using public transit. I had eyed Tranan for years, and I'm glad I finally got to experience this coaster. I would love to see someone else buy a Freefly coaster. This is a really neat ride that can appeal to a lot of ages. Or at the bare minimum, I would love to see the Access coaster takes off because it takes the Freefly concept and makes it far more intense. I'd love to see more coasters incorporate the mind-bending and oddly forceful motions this coaster features. So those are my thoughts on Tranan at Skara Sommarland. What are your thoughts on the world's only SNS Freefly? Do you think it was a gimmick? Or do you actually enjoy the ride as well? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.